Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman, as well as our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham, and intern Erica on the ones and twos, dialing us in so you guys can hear us loud and clear. This is an episode of Freedom. I guess that name's sticking.
Yeah, we're doing it.
I don't even know how to differentiate. You know, it's like they're tuning in. WebED will make up the titles when he writes the descriptions. It's all very exciting.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Erica brought in cookies.
Yes, I did.
Homemade.
Homemade peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
That one.
Do you consider yourself a bit of a baker?
No. Those ones are easy. Only 3 ingredients.
Really?
Really? When do you guys have your first meal of the day, typically?
Ooh, noon.
Noon, yeah. So you guys are on the intermittent fasting diet, right?
I just don't eat breakfast.
Noon to 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
I probably do noon and like 6:37. I don't eat breakfast. I never have.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's actually a wonder that we do this in the morning. My brain doesn't totally start working until about 11 a.m. and my stomach certainly isn't down with eating until noon.
Erica, when do you have your first meal?
Lunch usually, yeah. I'm not big on breakfast. Is your mic on?
Oh, hello.
It's not coming up.
No.
He's number
It is
3?
on.
All right, hold on. We're having a technical issue, but that's why Erica's on there with the headphones. We're gonna figure out Shane's microphone.
Thank G.
Oh, try again. There we go.
Hello.
Got
Because
it.
I did say yummy into the
Oh,
mic.
we
These are
missed
very
it.
good cookies.
We don't want anyone to miss that.
When do you eat your first meal, Max? you a
Usually it's
breakfast
like, well, I can vary, but usually not till a little bit later in the day. Lauren made like homemade egg bites, and I had one this morning. Very
I
good.
like those egg bites at Starbucks.
Yeah, they're a good, healthy little snack.
Danica my wife is she's a super staunch. I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She's like super regimented, and she gets what's the word, hangry?
Hangry, yeah.
If that does not go down.
Huh.
Yeah.
I would love to. I just can't control myself. Like, I also have all these rules on, like, I don't eat sugar through the week. I don't do bread through the week. But if someone brings in pizza or donuts, and if it's laying around, I'll definitely eat it, and that's my rule break. I just won't purchase it or seek it out.
Oh, sure.
But these cookies are delicious. I'm very glad to be eating them.
That is the official statement.
He eats all 4. I brought a 12 of donuts into the office last week.
Why? From where?
Mike's doing this move lately. It's pretty cool. I think he's going for a promotion.
It's just I think it helps sort of like build the morale and solidify sort of the camaraderie when someone brings in something like that.
That's a great move. At my last office job, this would have been like 9 years ago, at the Hamilton Law Association, I worked there maybe like 2 days a week, maybe, and like maybe 2 weeks out of the month. Like, it was a very part-time job, and I'll be honest, like kind of a lazy worker. I was in the back. I was shelving books. Basically.
I'm shocked.
I was like shelving books, but my move was always to bring in donuts. Like, if I'd go for like a coffee in the afternoon for my own little break, and I'd be like, anyone need a coffee? Let me. And then it was all sort of middle-aged ladies there, and they're like, no. And they try to pay me like a toonie to get them somebody at Tim Hortons. I'm like, oh, stop it, put that money away. So I basically just like buy my goodwill.
Well, that's what they say. If you can't be good, be nice. I always remember that. I'm like, okay, I'm not
like
the
if you're not
best
good
at
at
my
your job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like shut up and be nice, and people will want you around.
Yeah.
That's true. I think most work is if you're a good hang. I mean, obviously, if you're an astrophysicist or something like that, that's like a different story. But like,
there's some really gregarious astrophysicists out there that is fucking everything up, but they're like, he's just so great at the company party. He's got all the jokes.
We want to keep him around. He's a good hang. He can't do math for shit.
You call this astrophysics? Shut up. He's hilarious.
Yeah, but actually, I remember Nick in our band was watching some YouTube tutorials on how to be a good bassist. I'm not kidding. Well, no, like he was watching YouTube tutorials on these like famous session dudes, like who play on all the big records.
Yeah,
and
there's a famous female bassist that played on the Brian Wilson records.
Yeah, that's
she's
right.
part of his squad. Like there's like a whole documentary I feel like on session musicians.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And anyway, one of the advices that one of these greats gives to young aspiring bassists, he's like, honestly, just be a good hang. That's like 90% of the job. There's a lot of good bassists out there, but I think what has probably separated me from other people is that I'm just easy to be around. And
It would be funny if Nick was jumping around on stage like Flea, like shirtless.
He was watching Chili Peppers tutorials. Why is it different with Nick? He's shirtless. He's wearing the stuff.
He's got the bod for it.
You know what's funny is it's like that is like really the best advice. You know, you see the NBA players this happens with, where it's like at the end of the year, there's always about 1 or 2 spots at the end of the bench that they kind of hold open for buyout guys or whatever. And if you don't get the buyout guys, you end up just bringing back dudes that are like good in the locker room because they're not going to get minutes. So it's like, are you a decent dude? Are you going to like flap your arms like wings when a guy dunks? Are you going to cheer on the bench? And
are you going to give good advice to the young guys oftentimes?
Totally.
Right?
It's like
Richard
just,
Jefferson or Channing Frye. Those guys kept getting contracts because they were just
good vets.
Good vets, yeah.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
were you going to address something?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just wanted to start off the show. I know we've talked about doing a correction segment.
You're in trouble. Finally. It's not me.
No, and I meant to get to this last week, but we have a great listener named Lauren Simmons, at Lauren Dorfin on Twitter, and she brought up a good point yesterday and the week before. So let's start in chronological order. On last week's episode, she said she was yelling at my headphones when Max Kerman says, "Is there another on the level of Tiger, a Muhammad Ali, a Jordan?" And no one says Serena Williams. So the first thing I'd like to say is that I did not say that. Mike Veerman said that.
Was it me?
Mike, you in trouble? Finally, not me.
And I think we were talking. What were we talking about? Tiger Woods.
We were talking about Tiger Woods sort of being a living legend
Yeah.
in the same category as a Jordan and Ali.
And what I'd like to do is, one, it's a good flag because oftentimes in a male-dominated world, you forget to mention the female counterparts and who are equally as worthy. And of course, Serena Williams is on the level. So we beg for the principle of charity on that one. It's a fast-moving show, and we'll definitely try our best to make sure that we are hitting any potential blind spots that exist in our society. We try to be as even-handed and as sort of with a wide worldview as possible, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. So, but good catch. Number two, yesterday, probably just as important, we were talking about the yellow vest movement in France.
Yep.
And it's funny because Mike actually flagged this after the show. He said, "Are you sure the yellow vest movement, or what do you? Because you called it the yellow jacket movement."
Yeah,
well, I that part, right?
I basically said I just said that I think there's different factions sort of popping up all over the place now, right? Like, and I just said that there is some concern that there are factions of it that are sort of radicalizing it for like xenophobic reasons,
anti-immigration.
Exactly. So anyway, I just said, "Are you sure it's about that?" And then I was just like,
Yeah. You did flag it with me, and then after we recorded, I looked it up. And I went on the Wikipedia page for Yellow Vest movement in France, and I read a bunch of articles. Not many mentioned the anti-immigration xenophobic thing. Oh, even though I'm sure in France, too, there's a part of that community that has those beliefs. When I was bringing them up, I was more referencing French stereotypes, and French stereotypes in my mind are people doing romantic things like eating spaghetti together, as you saw in a French restaurant. There's people that are very concerned with fashion and appearance, so that's why I like to bring up those fashion designers and L'Oreal who are donating to Notre Dame.
The finer things in life.
The finer things in life, and also French revolutions, because everyone loves Les Mis. And I know, and I was sort of making light of the fact that these protests have been happening, but the point is that the French people know how to protest. This is like very much in their blood, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And I thought that was a funny French stereotype.
So you were only trying to be mildly offensive, not like super like swinging for it.
Well, but that's
so
not
the
even
reason
really,
you bring this up is because she tweeted at us.
So she tweeted. So Lauren said, "Hey dudes, here with your weekly fact check. You might want to look into the background of the Yellow Vest movement. It's kind of xenophobic, Islamophobic, and anti-immigrant." Now, in Canada, that is the tone that group has taken on. I'll pull up a quick article from Canadaland, which is a good show, website and a good podcast here in Canada. By tapping into a deep reserve of neo-populist resentment and frustration, the Canadian version of the Yellow Vests has, in the last 2 months, manifested as perhaps the most cohesive right-wing protest movement in the country. What began in France as a grassroots protest against widening economic inequality has spread into Canada, taking on a decidedly xenophobic tone. While the Canadian Yellow Vests have some grievances in common with their French forebears, chiefly concerning economic disparity and unemployment, their message has been decidedly more hateful from the beginning. So I think tonally there's a difference between the two groups. In Canada, it seems to be not quite as friendly. In France,
Well, in France, is like one of the big issues was like the rising price of gas. Let's say,
Yeah.
right? So they kind of all unified between like whatever party line you're on. This is something we can all say. That
we
is
all hate
atrocious.
the richies, the bankers.
Exactly. It seems here the issue is more like why are we using public resources and allocating it to immigrants to help these people when we have people who were born and raised here, who don't have anything and they're not being helped in the same way that people that are new to the country are.
Yeah.
I believe, and I may sound ignorant, I believe that's kind of their stance, which is like the allocation of funds by the government for immigrants.
Yeah.
So take that, Lauren. Did we win or no? I zoned out a little bit.
No,
during
she's
that.
right because it is more nuanced,
Oh,
and we
okay.
sort of spoke about it in a broad way, I guess.
Yeah, I was talking more in reference to French stereotypes, and but also I'll also maintain this is not a smart show. This is somewhere in
This
the middle.
is free dumb.
Yeah.
Come on, it's right there in the title.
Yeah, but that said, we do really appreciate everybody listening, and in my life, I generally like to have a progressive voice in my head going, hey, just watch out, hey, you got to keep your eye on that because it stays with me and it makes me a more sensitive person, and I think that's a good thing.
So a person like Lauren is, although it may seem annoying at first, a person like Lauren is welcomed.
Of course. I mean, a lot of my friends would have the same idea. Like after we podcast, Dan Hamilton will send me a text going, "You sounded like an idiot saying that," or "That was unfair." Like I have a number of people in my life that play that role, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, my inbox is full after every pod. But speaking of which, I did just want to bring up something. I had a supporter of mine message me.
Supporter.
Shane supporter. And he was
What would a Shane fan be called?
this one was called Jonathan Populus.
Oh, I thought like you have believers. I was
Yeah.
like, we need to come up with a name for people that are fans of yours because you do have unique fans.
The 69ers.
Yeah, the 69ers. My fans are, I guess, the laymen would be, or the lay women. Not that I've come across a female fan yet, but one day, a man can dream. But this supporter,
That's not true, by the way. I've seen your DMs with all sorts of people, and I would say it's just dudes.
That sounds nefarious.
How are you looking at my DMs?
No,
check this one out. That's a good one. That's a female. But the person was bringing up how if Game of Thrones, let's say, and don't get really into semantics here with me, Max, because you'll be like, Game of Thrones would never burn down. But if a Game of Thrones, let's say they shot the entire season and the hard drive burned down, and then some rich person's like, here is $300 million, reshoot the season. I bet people would rejoice. I bet they wouldn't say, why donate that to
So is this a
charity?
point that one of your supporters wrote to you after listening to yesterday's episode?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And I was wondering what your thoughts, being that especially Mike's a Game of Thrones fan, and I know you're not, so maybe it's a bad point. But
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
no,
thinking.
no, I get the example.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I guess my thoughts on that analogy, just as it's been presented to me, I guess my initial thoughts are Game of Thrones is entertainment for the masses made by a company for profit. So basically, it exists as an entertainment product that is meant to bring joy to people that they pay for in order to consume. So it's like if that goes away and then some other business wants to come in and basically like, that happens all the time. People shoot a pilot, it doesn't work out. You spend another $1 million to shoot the pilot, and then you try to sell it to somebody, and then people consume it and they spend money on it. I guess the thing about like the Notre Dame is it's like one, I believe it's probably like it's a tax shelter, like meaning like because it's like a publicly funded thing, those are people's tax money, meaning they don't have a choice whether or not they want to pay into something like that. So it's like I guess it's like if for a thing like a church or an institution, if people are going to if it's going to stay running, I think the people basically have to pay for it whether they want to or not. It's kind of like the allocation of tax dollars. And I'm not totally sure how it works in Paris. The other one is an independent sort of like entity that is like a commodity for sale. That's not what the public building is. That's sort of like a public trust or like a thing that everybody's supposed to enjoy whether you want to partake or not.
But realistically, it's bringing money to Paris, right? Like people are
In
going
theory,
there
as a tourist attraction,
just to
yeah.
see it. Like the Mona Lisa burnt down.
It probably generates a lot of money for Paris, absolutely.
Yeah, no, but you're saying you're getting to the idea of a rich guy forking over a bunch of money for something that arguably is frivolous. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then there was another point, like
Or not frivolous, but it's just purely for entertainment. And so the same idea when people scoff at the L'Oreal guy giving $200 million, and he's like, oh, you're just sitting on that money? And he'd say, well, it's giving people a lot of joy and entertainment in the same way that the guy who saves the Game of Thrones hard drive would be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there was the idea that there was an article coming out that the Avengers are due to make $1 billion in one day.
Oh.
And it was just a thought, like, what if instead of going to see Avengers, everyone used that ticket money to donate to a worthy cause, and then there'd be $1 billion out there.
Yeah, so this was
Like,
kind
what
of my
about that?
point. This
Yeah.
was my point about the L'Oreal guy. Is it's like we can't tell people what to spend their money on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he can either have a fifth yacht, or he can like donate to the Flint water. But the thing is, it's like we live in a capitalist society. Like they can choose to do what they want with their money.
And I don't think that was, I guess, the real question is not our opinions. I mean, would there be as much public outrage if it was a Game of Thrones thing being supported?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the Game of Thrones like lives in a specific part of the culture. The reason why I think people got mad with the Notre Dame example is that there was like 2 black churches in the South that got burned down, and people weren't donating at all to that. There's other examples of like things that happen in the public sphere, in the public space, that are very problematic, even in the Western world, that have not been addressed yet. I think that's why it hit a chord with people, is that it's like it's easy to separate Game of Thrones or spending money at the box office for Avengers or whatever and not really compare them to the Notre Dame example. I think this one felt more egregious because we said, wait a second, there's another example that happened right over here to a bunch of black people, and nobody cared about that. So,
and like you were saying, all things must pass, and this is that church's time to pass, I guess.
That was sort of, I mean, that's a different idea when it comes to like how long things need to be around, or
Well, I just think
or just
ultimately-
how lifespan of something.
I say good riddance, and you can DM me at SheenyBoy69. But yeah, I didn't want to derail the whole thing. I just thought that was an interesting thought. I thought I'd
No, it's good.
bring it
No,
up.
it's a good thought exercise, but that leads to a bigger question about how much we ought to be spending on entertainment when there are a lot of people suffering, and that is a much bigger question. This is a little more of a specific example when it comes to the Church of Notre Dame, but it
Well,
makes
and
you, it does
also,
make you
like-
think in a bigger
also,
way.
like, yeah, I mean, to me, it just, I feel like we're constantly throwing out these like false equivalencies. Like it's like one is like a charitable donation, the other one is an entertainment product. It's like, yeah, I spend a shit ton on basketball that I shouldn't, but it's like we live in a construct of society where it's like we produce these entertainment products and people choose to consume them. Are they do you need them for your life? No. Do you want them? Sure. Something like, buildings or infrastructure.
I think that church is totally a nostalgic form of entertainment.
I think that's I think the Church of Notre Dame is more of a
it's a
historical-
tourist attraction.
Funded
It's
by
like
the people,
It's
though.
like Disney
Funded
World
by tax
for-
dollars, though.
Yeah, but
Sure.
but what we're getting at here is the personal donations and then the way that people donated to the cause to like bring back
To
their
rebuild it.
to rebuild it and bring back that form of entertainment.
Totally. I ultimately, I guess, just to clarify my position, I'm on the side that people can spend their money on whatever the hell they want to
Yeah.
spend it on. That's why we make it.
I just say don't shit on anyone donating to charity.
And
And I like the fact that this conversation happens when somebody does something like this because it makes everyone think about donating themselves.
Yeah.
So there is a good residual effect when things like this happen, but I would never dissuade anyone from donating to any charity.
Yeah, and Mike, I'd add to your point. Sure, people are free to do whatever they want, and
That's obvious, though.
no, but also it's like, what are things we can do as a society to nudge people to do better for each other? And so, I think some people would argue that we are too individualistic, we are too selfish in the way we choose to spend our time and money. And is there things we can do in a broad way to shift the attitudes of like, no, it actually feels best and it is best for the world, it's best for everybody if we are more charitable.
Well, there's a certain reality to humans that is kind of uncomfortable to talk about. And that is, if you gave somebody the choice of having like a yacht or saving a human being that they've never met on the other side of the world, and no one were to find out, I personally, and maybe I'm cynical in this sense, think a lot of people would choose the yacht. I personally wouldn't. I know that I wouldn't, but I think there are a ton of people out there that would. And so to me, I'm like, of course somebody's going to donate a shit ton of money to the Notre Dame because it means something to them. Shane brought up a good point. We were talking in the office the other day that like these rich people they're really trying to buy back like sort of their youth. They have a connection to that thing somehow, like through Notre Dame. These rich French people.
And goodwill from the public.
All
It's
that,
a marketing
sure, that it's
exercise,
all tied in. But it's like, but then, why don't they donate to something that might actually save a human? And maybe they do, by the way. We don't actually know the answers. They might say, actually, Mike, what the hell are you talking about? I donate to 100 causes. It's just this one's not public. So I actually don't know. But I do think that there's this thing that happens where people are obviously, it's just human nature to be more sort of like invested in your own self-interests than a complete stranger. And in fact, a lot of people find it reprehensible. This is why healthcare is having so much issue in the States. It's just like they don't like the idea of paying into something that might help someone they don't know that isn't contributing in a way that they feel is appropriate.
But this person was still donating to charity.
Yeah. No, totally.
And
Yeah,
for me,
there
it's
are
more,
worse ways to spend your money.
For me, it's just what I don't like is that it's not like a great civil discourse. It's often people shitting on them, like, you rich asshole, donate to this charity. That's way more important. And it was kind of like my same stance on the Bieber thing. It's like when someone's maybe
You bring that up again.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like when I was saying people were being too sensitive, I meant their reactions were a little mean towards someone who wasn't intending to be mean. And I feel like people are being too reactive to this person who donated $100 million when they could just open up a broader conversation in a kinder way.
Yeah, you're getting into the weeds here, and you're,
of course, I thought we were though.
No, not you. No, you're not getting into the weeds. I'm saying people in criticizing somebody for doing kind of an act of a greater good, which is donating to it, even if it's just a church rebuilding and not fighting malaria, like that is like a fussy point, arguably, to get at when ultimately this guy is doing something that is a service to somebody else, which is maybe something that should be celebrated.
I think it would be awesome if there was like a holiday called like Charity Day or something, where it was a known day where everyone donates $1 to a charity of their choice, and it's just a known thing. Everyone's donating $1 on this day, and then you'd get, what's the population of the Earth again?
So we agreed 7.2.
I think it was 7.9 billion. Max,
yeah.
come on, get with it. But I think that would be great, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Obviously,
sure.
like probably third world countries don't have the buck to spare, but I mean every place that's thriving.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good.
Putting it out there.
Yeah, a buck is different to every person, though. You know.
That's what I just said.
No, I know, but I'm saying like, I guess I'm talking about the equivalency of like a buck to one person is worth literally $300,000 to another person, and so this is what people get at. I mean,
I'm talking about like in if you're
like a mass movement.
Yeah, if you can spare the dollar and only $1, and the dollar might mean a penny to you, the dollar might mean $2 to you or 10. But if you can spare it on this holiday that I'm just inventing, everyone donate $1.
Totally.
Yeah, and one last thing that we can get on to the actual three subjects of the day. No, it's okay. No, this is fun. Is that I think people, the idea of income inequality is something on
a
lot of people's minds, and the question is, how do we solve that? Like, what are steps that people, especially in positions of power and privilege, can do to address it? Because ultimately, they are the ones who are responsible for taking the extra money. And I should listen to the latest episode of Against the Rules by Michael Lewis, and he gets directly into CEO pay and how basically the people in charge of monitoring CEO pay, even consultants that are brought in to large corporations to say how much a CEO ought to be getting paid, those people are getting bought off, and they have no voice. There was a big article in the news a few days ago from Abigail Disney, who's the heiress to the Disney, or one of the heiresses to the Disney fortune, who came out really criticized Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney, for giving himself a $65 million bonus. And she, in her Twitter thread,
that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Bonus.
Whoa.
And she goes in and she's like, there's no reason why you should be getting paid over 1,000 times the medium wage of your employees. And this is simply inhumane to be taking that much money when there are people that work for you that are barely getting by on minimum wage. There's no reason for this. Yeah. So those kinds of conversations, I think, are really important to be had. And why, honestly, when you see the Yellow Vest movement in France coming out against, against this income disparity and opportunities for people in the lower half, you understand why those things exist.
You know what's changed, though? It's two things. One, in the past, the masses, like due to the Twitter, the internet, so the socialization of information and news, no one, like a few people in the trades would know that he gave himself a $65 million raise. Now we all know it.
We're all talking about it.
We're all talking about it. And we realize that, like you said, she's used the word obscene. I think the reason people got so upset about L'Oreal or whatever, all these donations, is not that they donated. I think they looked at the raw number and they went, he's $200 million to give to this fucking church? Holy shit, like how rich is this person? And then and so it's like most of us go through our life not wanting to be reminded of sort of like our station in life. And by the way, people in this room, we've got it good. We are like doing
We're
well.
the top 2%.
I wake up and I think, like, honestly, my fucking lucky stars every day. I swear, I honestly do, because I'm like, man, like this is good. We have it very good, and some people have it very bad. But also, it's like every once in a while you'll read the paper and you go, holy shit, like we're not even close to touching whatever that 1% is, and for a million reasons. But I'm saying, but think about all of those people that read those things and they go, this guy just has $200 million to throw at a charity of his choice. Like, shit, people are dying in the streets. Now, again, people, this is the society we built, this is the construct. So it's like spend your money on what you want. It is capitalist. And so why does Bob Iger give himself a $65 million raise?
Because he can.
Because Disney's making billions of dollars. Like you just said, Avengers is going to make whatever it's going to make this
one
weekend.
day.
In one day. Of course he's giving himself a $65 million raise. Because he's going to say, I greenlit that fucking franchise a decade ago, and look at how much money it's earned for this company. And it's just like, that's
And maybe
capitalism.
in some weird way he deserves it.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, but then Abigail Disney would say, no, nobody needs to buy their 5th yacht. Period.
Or you can't.
Oh, and then that's why you need regulations, because it's very easy for people to justify those kinds of money. Sure, I totally agree.
This is why people on the right hate regulations.
Well, people can say to us, "You don't need so many shirts, Max. You don't need all those fringes on your."
And honestly,
sleeves."
no. You don't need
all
how
those
many-
rainbow frillies.
too many fringes, too many colors.
One tassel too many.
It's gone to his head.
No, but honestly, and I want to give a big shout out to this podcast, Michael Lewis podcast, because the whole theme of the show is about the referees in our society. And I think it's really important for people to police each other's behavior, to make sure people are acting honestly. And I want independent arbiters to tell me, is this fair? Because I don't even trust myself sometimes.
But who watches the Watchers, Max?
Well, I mean, Lauren. No, but
Like, where's the oversight for the oversight? It's
well,
never
sure.
ending.
I mean,
there's no trust or faith in institutions
that's
anymore.
that's where corruption can happen. But I think it's good to strive for it. Just because there's potential issues, it doesn't mean we don't go for it.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So as I said in the beginning of the show, I like watchdogs. I think honest watchdogs are super important to our society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is something to note too that although probably in North America we're not part of the 1%, I think on a worldwide scale we are.
Yeah,
the
I
1%.
completely agree.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's
in
like
North America, we're probably part of the top 20 for sure, top 10 right now. I don't know about Erica, but the three of us.
the way we're paying her, yeah, she'll never get there. But I mean, people are looking at us. Not that anyone in a third world country is listening to this podcast, but if they were, they'd be like, "Oh, these guys don't know how good they have it, and they're wasting their money on shit when they could be helping me get water." And why does a house need to be that big?
This is This podcast is a frivolous pursuit compared to what people are really doing on the ground and
what we're doing with our
situations.
money, though. We're not necessarily being as altruistic as we can.
What
You're
I
telling me fucking game 1 in round 2 against the Philadelphia 76ers and the Raptors.
well, that's
is
different.
What I like to do personally is when I think about humans frivolously spending, I like to start at the tax bracket above mine, and that's where the real problems begin.
Those people are bastards.
Of course, that's the way everyone does
That's
it.
where everyone thinks. I know. All right, let's get on to the next subject. That was fun, though.
That's great.
All
All right.
Hey, guys, this
Yeah.
has turned into a very smart political show.
Yeah.
Well, smart in air quotes.
Oh, you know what? I wasn't even impressed with the last subject that we had. I think the Showtime Lakers. So maybe we'll save that for another day. So,
Okay, so maybe we'll just do 2 today.
Yeah,
Because I was going to say that was the weakest one.
yeah.
I was.
Well, what's more interesting about that? Well, just to quickly do is we were going to talk about Adam McKay is going to be sort of the showrunner for this, or at least directing the pilot for a TV show about the 1980s Showtime Lakers, which is fascinating. But I was going to say the more fascinating thing is Adam McKay's career arc. Kind of being this like guy that was a writer in SNL, pairing up with Will Ferrell, doing all of these sort of Anchorman, Talladega Nights, all these sort of like dick and fart comedies, and then becoming this sort of Oscar caliber director with The Big Short
with
and Vice.
political tones and
Of course.
very woke director and very outspoken.
But maybe we'll hit that in another episode.
Sure.
So the other ones on our docket are there is a story in TechCrunch about Instagram likes. So a prototype of a new sort of working model of Instagram came out. It says, we want your followers to focus on what you share. So before I read this, I must say, the idea is they're going to take away the like count. So when you post something on Instagram, whether you get 5 likes, 50 likes, 100 likes, 10,000 likes, your followers will no longer be able to see those likes. And this
You'll know.
You'll know. You'll be able to see the likes.
Yeah.
But people won't. And their justification for this sort of tech tweak that they would do to the platform says, we want your followers to focus on what you share, not how many likes your posts get. During this test, only the person who shares a post will see the total number of likes it gets. So anyway, that's basically their outlook, is to sort of encourage people to post more because they're not scared they're only going to get 10 likes.
And this was just a prototype. We should who knows if it's actually going to become real, right?
Oh, yeah. There was like a whole thing like 6 months ago where actually a new way to look at Instagram had popped up and everybody started losing their minds. It was like a test balloon that they ran for like 4 hours and people lost their shit.
Yeah, so this might not actually happen, but it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Let's say it does.
I feel like Shane was very excited to talk about this one. What are your thoughts?
Well, at first I thought they were going to take away the likes completely, which I kind of liked that idea.
Double tap
just
that idea.
because I've become so obsessed with my phone, and like the little hearts coming up is one of the things I can almost guarantee is going to happen every time I like refresh my phone. Mm-hmm. So I liked that going away because then I can lose my obsessiveness with my phone, always feeling like, oh, there's something to refresh. There's going to be some notification.
It's a dopamine hit.
Right, and I'm trying to rid myself of this. Like, I totally have no attention span right now. It's brutal. I can't focus for more than probably a minute and a half without obsessively reaching for my phone, glancing at it to look for God knows what. And usually it's nothing, and usually it is just that little heart coming up.
Honestly, this is why this podcast is a bit of a therapy session, because no one looks at their phone really.
Yeah.
Which is actually a very good break for your brain. It's like, you know, if you go to like an important dinner or something and you can't look at your phone.
Well,
and,
hanging
and
with
you
friends
realize
in
your
general.
body starts doing different things and you're just more in the moment.
This is why I honestly like enjoy sitting in like pubs with you guys and just talking, because it's kind of a version of this podcast that we're not recording. We're not looking at our phones. If we're watching a basketball game or if it's just like we're out for drinks like with my friends, I actually don't look at my phone. It's
I
great.
feel like Max and Dan are more.
Yeah, you guys
like,
still look at your phones.
You'll do that
Oh
more.
yeah, I'm definitely a culprit, but it's still better than when I'm by myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I do like having this podcast is a great excuse to chat.
Yeah.
Like it's like going out for a coffee. You're not going for the coffee. You're going to chat with your friends.
Yeah.
Right? Or beer in our case.
So you're in favor of this?
I am.
prototype?
And another thing is I do get, I feel good when I get more likes than someone else. And I feel bad when someone gets more likes than me. So I don't want to feel like I'm the cool guy, and I don't want to feel like I'm not cool either.
Yeah.
It's a crazy roller coaster of emotions. And I'm very childlike for even succumbing to that, you know?
I think you're describing how a lot of people feel about
Yeah.
it.
No,
I think that's more
and you know
universal than that.
the idea of competition and pursuing things.
Social capital. It's just like
Yeah, like it's funny. It's like when I think about competition, you can look at it in two ways. One, it can be very productive in that it makes people work really hard and makes people ambitious, and innovation happens because people are competitive. And I think that's a great thing about competition. That would be the argument for capitalism, for instance. Like capitalism has led to a lot of great things. On the other hand, it leads to so many ugly character traits, and because you're competing for a lot of times things that are kind of useless, or you have this like narrative in your mind about who you're up against, you know, who's more popular, social capital, and those things ultimately make the world much worse. You know, so it's like
not even like, I mean, yes, you could argue it makes the world much worse, but what it does is it's also like ruining people's sort of
sense of self.
exactly
Yeah.
their self-worth, like the idea of like what you value about yourself and what you can actually contribute. And is it likes? I mean, this is the social media argument sort of that we've been having for the last decade now. But, you know, it's like nobody ever posts like the shitty part of their vacation where, you know what I mean? They're like so drunk that they fucking pass out at the pool. Well, some people do. Or like when I mean, that's sometimes the funnest stuff. But like, or like when they're like their kids crying and shit everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like it's always the most idyllic sort of like photo for a lot of people. And it's like,
Unless they're trying to be like faux
Real.
relatable,
Sure.
and they're doing it, and they're like, "My kids are assholes," and there's that whole thing that gets
Yeah.
a lot of likes.
but then there's even a cynicism to that, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I see what they're sort of like portraying, and it's just like,
no matter what you're doing, it's not real.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's like it's weird, but it's like then there is some like realness to it. It's like, oh, well, why do I post? Well, there's certain family members and people want to see like what I'm up to. But to your point, it's mostly for like this sort of narcissistic like dopamine hit where it's like, oh, look at my life and double tap it, and that feels good to me, and I hate that feels good to me.
Yeah.
But then you also feel like almost ridiculous and sort of like a Luddite if you're like, I'm eschewing everything. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a Twitter. I'm not on Facebook.
Well, more than that, you feel like you're missing out on a potential revenue stream or something. Like a guy like Kawhi Leonard doesn't have Instagram, and I feel like he's missing out on a lot of dollars.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where a lot of business takes place. This is actually interesting though, because it leads to another big topic of our day in how social media's companies police themselves. And right now, there's a lot of controversy over the news that's shared on Facebook. Who's in charge? What are they like? Who are the people at Facebook that create the algorithms? Because it's in their best interest to create these bubbles for each user.
The most clicks.
Yeah, to get the most clicks, to keep people on the platform. It's better for business and it's better for Facebook. But it has created a lot of ugly things, and Facebook doesn't know what to do about it. And so I wonder, going back to the Instagram example, although this is actually, I think, a positive step for our own mental health and for actually creating a better world. So just like focus on the picture itself as opposed to the likes it might get. Is that going to be bad for Instagram's business? And what happens if people stop using Instagram as much because some other platform comes up
with likes,
with likes, and people go over there, and then Instagram goes, "Oh, we just shot ourselves in the foot for trying to do a more noble thing."
What they'll do is they'll adjust very quickly.
No, I know they will.
But, okay.
But yeah, no, you're right.
I see what you're
They
saying.
What
will.
you're talking about is what might be better for the social conscience or public health isn't good for business.
Yeah.
You'll always choose business.
No, I know. And
People always do.
Which is disappointing to me because, I guess Instagram is more based on photos, but when it comes to journalism, and you're a journalist student, Erica, you may talk to this, but like there should be some nobility, I think, in the way news is shared. And every newspaper always wanted to sell a lot of copies. So I'm not naive to think that like the old timey way was this like noble pursuit. There's obviously money to be made in that industry, and it was a very successful one at that. But how do we I think we've gotten to a point when it comes to the way news is shared on Twitter and Facebook that has become very destructive, and what and how these social media companies choose to do about it is a tough question.
Well, and it seems like it'd be good for us, right? If the like count went away. But what about the people who are supremely popular? Like, wouldn't like Kylie Jenner go on like Suicide Watch or something if
I'm
this
curious
happened?
about like how the business of Instagram would change for all these like influencers who make money off of it and make money off the likes and the comments and need a certain amount of likes and comments to receive that paycheck.
It would really upend the industry.
Well, what I think would happen is, because I was thinking that exact same thing, is that followers would have a higher premium now.
It would have to, because it would be
which
the
they
only
still do.
number.
Yeah.
But you would be able to see your own likes, so I wonder if that sort of information would become
back-channeled.
They said
yeah,
comments,
it would become this sort of like very secret information that got passed around the influencer world, like how many likes you get, your
They'd start
average
screen
like.
grabbing their likes and
Yeah,
making
and
those
like
posts.
selling that information.
Boom.
Boom. Well, they said comments would become far more premium. So it's like if you have 10,000 comments, that's essentially like even more valuable than 20,000
So
likes.
you'd still see
Takes
comments.
more time to engage. Yes, you'd still
The
see
whole
comments.
Instagram world, though, I must say, is already corrupt. There is...
This is your main cause. Speaking of charities,
play the music.
Shane's writing a takedown piece.
if I had 100 million, this
But
is what I
people
would
are
donate to.
buying all these fake influencers. They're buying at least 10,000 followers in most cases. They're in like groups that are all fake likes. They're in comment groups where it's, I know because my wife gets approached by these people all the time to join. And
in the comments.
She
just kidding.
No, but someone will be like, check your DMs, and then she will. It's like, join this
right.
comment group, and then you will get 50 comments a day. And then I start looking at other mom accounts because I'm trying to stay competitive, and I'll look at their comments, and they're all like, nice, cute, this. If a comment's only one word and you get like 100, you can kind of smell the bullshit. And if someone has 20,000 followers, but they're only getting 100 likes in the photo, that's a horrible ratio, so they must be bot followers.
So these comment and like farms exist.
They're not only do they exist, they're the most prevalent misleading thing ever for potential sponsors. And I just want to say this family tree does not do that at all.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Every follower is earned.
It's a hard
Man,
stance.
These 21st century problems that young people have to deal with now are so fucking crazy. Like, I know the Western privileged world has always dealt with its own set of vapid problems, but when just the amount of influence that influencers have and YouTube stars that do absolutely like nothing. I mean, there's different types of like.
It's harder work than you think.
No. I'm not saying it's not hard work. I'm sure people, and I'm not talking about this family tree, like that is speaking to a community of moms that I think actually has inherent value, which is important. I'm talking about like these LA kids that just like talk about like what they're wearing to Coachella. And I know I'm sounding like an old man right now, but like there are those blogs get so much attention, and it's really like offering nothing of substance. I was watching the Lori Loughlin, and they make so much money.
It's insane the
And
amount of money these influencers make.
They are offering something of substance to the consumers. Like what does basketball offer to you? This is the new entertainment.
Yeah, just because it's not important to you doesn't mean it's not relevant.
I would say that
shit's their Game of Thrones.
Okay, what I would sure, I get that argument, but can we also agree that there are at least parts of basketball? Let's use basketball as an example.
Sure.
That where it's like it talks about teamwork and leadership and overcoming the odds and values that I think are universal and important. When it comes to what some rich like Lori Laughlin's kid, I was watching a bunch of her shit with Lauren the other day. And she's like talking about how to dress on the cheap, and she was talking about like buying like Gucci bags, and she's like, I don't know, I only get the real ones, but I think there's websites out there that you can get the knockoff ones, and you can go thrift shopping. Okay, I've never actually been thrift shopping, but and there's so many 11-year-olds that are watching her channel.
That's the thing,
and
yeah.
those are like objectively bad values for those kids to grow up on.
But like you were saying, at least it's possible. Yesterday you were mentioning that people getting better with their money and learning how to like obtain wealth and stuff. If you're Shaquille O'Neal, that's not very aspirational for me. Every player in the NBA is like over 6'7" and a beast. It's like a pretty you've hit the genetic lottery.
Sure.
In some sense.
No,
I think it's very
No,
comparable.
I listen, I get the argument that this is all forms of entertainment. I'm just saying that it's the Wild West right now, and there's a lot of people that have a very big platform with youth.
With youth, and that's the thing.
They're and when it came to the pop stars of the 90s, there was a lot of debaucherous shit going on, a lot of like bad messaging being sent out, and then that is commonplace for sure. But the extent that it exists today, and again, I know I'm sounding like an old man on my front porch, but I think it is worse.
But it's just everyone has their place in the world, and not everyone's as smart as you, and maybe not everyone can speak on politics or other things, or they're not. Maybe fashion's the thing that they're good at, or Instagram's the thing that they're good at, and they're succeeding, and they're like, okay, this is my slot in society. I'm going to show people how to dress or what Gucci bag's good.
I think you're talking in a more broad sense that it's like, why do 11-year-olds find this stuff so interesting? Like, why are they so drawn to a 17-year-old influencer in LA that is a rich kid that literally shows what they're going to Coachella
Because
with?
anyone who's 11 wants to be 30. It's just
yeah,
you want to be an adult.
The Instagrammers are the new like kids reading like J14 magazines and stuff.
Tiger
like
Beat.
that's
So in the past, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this guy's a sitcom, so I'm interested in this actor, this actress, and that's who I'm into. But the thing is, it's like we knew what the product was. It was the TV show, and then you kind of get the crush on the person. Now it's like, what's the product? These people aren't actors. They're not creating like content in the sense that it's like telling a story or like I'm getting something out of the Wonder Years and I'm whatever. It's like they're just literally looking at these people live their lives, which are opulent and aspirational, and they're just like, how do I get that?
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's no building blocks in the sense of like, do I value my relationships? Was I kind to my neighbor? Was I good to the guy, that nerd at school that couldn't get a seat? Am I, do I have a strong relationship with my parents or whatever? I guess, and by the way, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I guess the idea of family values.
Yeah.
Whenever you hear old conservatives be like, make America great again, what they're talking about is like a time when it was like apple pie, and it was never really that. It was kind of the idea of it. They just didn't talk about it. Now everything is so on display in the sense that it's like all I want to do is party, look out for myself, get fucked up, and laugh with my friends. And that's the celebration. This kind of started in a mass sense with Paris Hilton and sort of the idea of like, Kim Kardashian went from literally being sort of like this thing that we laughed at and like scoffed at in sort of like high fashion and entertainment and all of that stuff. And now she's 100% a part of the establishment and the institution.
So you're saying Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton didn't work hard and they...
I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying that what are their followers taking from that? Like, what are they taking? What is their brand? Their brand is sort of aloof opulence, like wealth. It's like...
And I don't think they worked hard. I don't think.
No, I think they do. Like,
you think so?
Very hard, and it's probably exhausting because they're always on camera, always promoting some brand, all these media appearances. Their life is probably hell, but they love it. They want to be famous. They want to be rich. This is the life they work for. I think it is very hard what they do. I do. And I think it's very presumptuous to assume all they're doing is partying all the time and just not adding anything to society. I bet we party way more.
No, he meant the way.
I'm talking about these Coachella kids.
No,
and
yeah,
what
I
they
think that's
portray.
presumptuous too, though.
But what they portray. And by the way, like I also think like there's different types.
And that's what they promote too.
Yeah. And so like we don't really know what anybody's life is like. Like just like we didn't know what fucking like Justin Timberlake's life was like when he was in NSYNC, or we didn't know what, like we don't really know. And it's like, so it's like,
I don't think they partied any more than we did.
And by the way,
when
I'm
we were
not saying
younger,
that
do we?
these people are immune to
promote
stress
it.
or anxiety or any of that stuff. Everybody has that, and so I'm not saying that like or depression or.
And hard work is quantifiable. Like if you love your job at a fast food place, that's not hard work. If you love talking all day about your handbag or your perfume, that's not work in a sense. I like doing this because it's not work. If this felt like work, I wouldn't fucking do it, to be completely honest, you know?
I
And
work hard at a lot of things. Like I thought the Crave Show was insanely hard for me,
Mm-hmm.
but since I love it, it was worth it, and I was getting that dopamine hit when the thing was done. So although hard work sucks sometimes, but if it's you're driving towards something you love, it's still work, but there's a payoff that you enjoy and appreciate.
Sure, but I guess the thing is...
I don't think working in a fast food place if you love it is not work.
Well,
I still
what
think
I would
it's
say is, like, I guess the thing is none of us know, like, what the deal is with Kim Kardashian is. I'm sure she has a team of literally 1,000 people that make her life extremely sort of, like... Comfortable, meaning, like, so, yes, she does have to go on camera, let's say, 8 hours a day or whatever their filming schedule is. It's laid out for her in a way that is... It's like the biggest bands in the world. It's like Brandon Flowers works really hard. It's like...
I bet you he does. And Max, do you work hard?
I work hard when we're schlepping our own gear into.
But
a
now
club.
you're not working hard.
I don't think I work hard.
Okay.
I mean, I think I work. I think I work a lot. I think the work's fucking really fun.
That's the difference.
Right.
You work a lot. You don't work hard. Like, people are carrying your gear. You basically get a schedule of where to be, all that stuff. Like, your life becomes sort of like... So, like, yes, I do think that, like...
There's parts of it that are hard. There's like, oh, you're away from your family.
There's
you're away from your
elements.
friends, but the job itself, it's like on the last Canadian tour, I didn't lift a finger. I just got to show up on sound check. Everything sounded amazing in my in-ears, and I got to like rock.
See, because for me, carrying all the equipment's the hard part. When I see what you're doing on stage, I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot of work.
No, that's easy. That's
Right.
fun. Yeah.
Interesting.
I guess as I was trying to get to with the Kardashian thing, like if you enjoy what you do, you're not really working. I guess in like a broad sense.
Yeah, and I forgot where we started with this.
It's a good quote. It's just there's a lot of stuff I've worked hard that I've felt like it's work, and I've wanted to do it because of the payoff.
Right.
I'm going towards my goal.
Yeah, where do we start with this one?
Likes, Instagram likes. Do we, Erica? What do you think? Keep them or leave them?
No, I think it's interesting. I think it'd be cool if we got rid of them. I'm not big on like caring about likes, but like we all feed into that dopamine hit that you were talking about, Shane. And like my ratios suck. I follow like 500 more people than follow me.
Oh, that's not good.
I don't care though. Like I don't know.
Hey,
I like
hey, listeners, go follow. What's your Instagram account?
at KKAA.
That's your first problem. It's a terrible
Yeah,
account.
what?
I know. Well,
It's
'cause I
Erica
kinda like to
backwards,
be-
right?
No.
How do you
It's
spell
not-
that? Let's spell that.
KKAAHH.
Okay.
So
Ka.
at KKAAHH.
Yeah, follow me up. I'm averaging 1 new follower per episode since Freedom started.
That's awesome.
Hey, that's great.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so
Shane's a
like
bit of a
7
social
new
media
At
consultant.
the rate that we're putting this
For
out,
a
you're
few
gonna have like
extras.
10 by next week.
Yeah.
We were gonna talk about Trump and the
meeting Jack Dorsey, which is kind of social media, and
Which
we
is kind of related,
You
but-
kind of spoke to that anyway when you talked about the danger in like news filtering.
What if
Yeah.
we go to the lesser, easier topic about him showing up to that Easter Bunny thing? and talking about that?
What was that? I didn't even see that.
Like, Mike, explain
So
that.
there's if you haven't been on Twitter, they did like over Easter weekend they did like the classic. I don't know if it's like the South Lawn Easter egg hunt for all the children, and then Trump comes out on the balcony and like he addresses the children and the press. Have you seen this clip, Max? So he goes out onto the balcony and he addresses the fucking children and the press. And because it's an Easter egg hunt, you'd think he'd go out and be like, "Oh, this is the day that our Lord and Savior Jesus came back." Because
he
Trump
doesn't know that though.
No, but he fronts like he's religious in some ways. But anyway, it's a very sort of easy home run to hit. Come out and talk about how much the Lord means to you and whatever. He can't help himself. So he starts talking about rebuilding the military and how it's the greatest it's ever been and it's huge and all that. But this isn't the kicker, Max. The best thing about this speech is that he's giving it on the balcony to these children in the press with the fucking Easter bunny standing beside him.
I did see that. That's fantastic.
Did you see this
No.
clip?
Oh, that's a terrifying Easter bunny too.
It's got the glasses on and everything.
and just
It's-
like Melania not cracking a smile.
Totally. And this is a tweet I actually sent to Shane last night at like whatever it was, 10 at night. And Southpaw at New York City Southpaw tweeted, "You fall into a coma shortly before the contested 2000 presidential election. Almost 19 years later, you wake up. This is the first video you see." And it's just Trump on a balcony with that terrifying fucking Easter bunny costume and the glasses.
That's great.
yeah.
Hey, actually, I'll say one quick thing on Trump meeting the Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey. Is that I know a lot of people that oppose Trump don't want to go near him just because they hate him so much.
People don't like Jack Dorsey. Did you see Seth Rogen's thing?
Oh, yeah. People don't like Jack Dorsey for a lot of reasons, too. But what I would say is that Trump is really susceptible to anybody who he's just met with I don't know if you've noticed this. And like after trashing Obama for like a decade, he met with Obama. It was like, oh, Obama said a lot of interesting things. And then Obama stopped talking to him because I think it was when they were doing the transition.
He left a note for him.
Like and he said,
oh,
he told me some great things. You could tell that Trump kind of liked Obama because Obama gave him attention.
he talked to him, yeah.
Yeah, and then when Obama stopped paying attention to him, then he went back to trashing him. This happens over and over again with Trump. You basically, like, if you're the last person in the room with him, you'd be like, oh, we had a great meeting. It was always a great meeting, even as somebody who he's been trashing for a long time. So what I would suggest is you just need to be close to him all the time. Like, ultimately, he's going to do what is going to impress the people in the room with him, because he just is seeking approval all the time, and the people in the room with him most of the time are fucking assholes like Stephen Miller and who else is in the room with him often.
Oh, like his team,
like his team, like Kushner and his daughter, and anyway. So I think if we want Trump to behave well, we just need to saddle up with him. As often as you can.
That's what he would say. Just treat me nice, and I'll be nice to you.
Just treat me nice, and I'll do the right thing. I know that's a naive way of thinking, but I do think
there's some evidence to support that theory.
Yeah, and I don't think that Trump has a worldview. He doesn't have a worldview.
No, your point is this is how guys like Stephen Miller, who like is a very hard line like anti-immigration person, how he's gotten his policies through because he's just in the room with Trump.
He just hangs out with him all the time.
Yeah.
So and a guy who is devoid of a worldview like Trump,
But maybe having no worldview is a view. It's like being agnostic.
Problem is whoever's closest to you can sway what you'll do. And
I'm not saying it's not problematic. I'm saying it is a view.
It's true.
And there's the funny we end at.
Mike on Much can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Mike on Much. You can subscribe to the show on any platform that has podcasts. Spotify, do it.